Hello，大家好，欢迎大家来到读书时间。我们今天继续读《Soft Hearts》Rett Swinson Mystery 这本书。好，我们现在开始。I'm aware. I mentioned the poems of hers that I found in back issues of school's literature magazine, he said. There's another poem, one she's submitted to the magazine last year. If I can just find. Here it is. He handed it to me. Invalidated. You're right here on Google. He says, I am? Yes, everyone can see this page describes you to a T. Close your eyes, listen. It hums your melody. Sir, there's nothing mellow about me, for my body rages constantly. Though it's no less hurtful to be rendered invalid in so bland a way. Why wasn't it published? I asked. Gary didn't like it. Did he tell Wanda she wasn't valid? Even if he never used that word directly with her. Perhaps that's how she felt with all the changes going on around here. I scanned the poem again. She uses the word rages. I said, maybe she knew she had an anger management problem. She shrugged. Literature and life don't always yield to foolproof interpretation. But enough clues can paint a picture. You seem like someone who isn't going to give up too easily. Could he tell, just like Jasmine, that I was a painter at heart? Was he pulling my leg somehow? I would give him the benefit of the doubt. I took a photo of the rejected poem and handed him back the original. You're right, I said. I'm not going to give up. Not yet. I thanked him and we parted ways. Because I was close to downtown, I decided to head back to the jail and try to see Trent again. I was pleasantly surprised when he agreed to see me. I mainly wanted to ask him about the note, but I didn't want to get too confrontational, so I started off with a different loose thread. I asked, when Wanda unpacked the dragon mask for you, were there mouse balls in the box? He asked me what mouse balls were. After I explained, he shook his head. I didn't see any of those. Finally, I asked Trent if the police had confronted him yet about a note that was written to Wanda before she died. He nodded. I pulled out my phone and read the note aloud. I asked, does this sound familiar in any way? Sorta, he said. So you did write it? No, I didn't, but it seems familiar. Maybe not. No, not really. I looked at him. He had retreated behind a poker face. Was this young man playing me? I gotta go, he said, standing. Thanks for coming to see me, but I done told you everything I know. I had a lot to think about on my drive home. I worried that simplified reading of the imp's letter would connect Trent even more directly to Wanda's murder. His cagey reaction to me when I'd read the note worried me further. Yet I couldn't understand why Trent, if he was going to rob Wanda, would want her to move out of the neighborhood. However, I did know several people who had wanted her gone, and they all happened to live on my street. When I arrived home, I pulled out my phone and looked again at the list of those who had helped to redo Wanda's yard. Wanda had told Skip that she had dirt on every single one of the people on this list. One name stood out for me, Cynthia Roberts. I'd been so caught up in Cynthia as a victim, I hadn't given much thought to her as a suspect. I saw her car was in her driveway, so I called her up and asked if she wanted to go for a walk, which she immediately agreed to. Perhaps she was still riding high after confronting her attacker, for I could barely keep up with her pace. Once we'd settled into a cadence that allowed me to catch my breath. To a cadence, modulating inflection of the voice. Cadence, beat, cadence that allowed me to catch my breath. I started in with questions about Wanda. I asked her if she knew who Wanda's doctor was. Cynthia shook her head. The detective called to ask me that, and I didn't have an answer for him. I don't think she ever went to the doctor. If she did, I wasn't aware. Wait. She abruptly stopped walking. What is it? I asked. You and I walking just now helped me remember about 3 years ago. Wanda broke her foot. Just kind of a random break. I landed on it wrong. She had a boot for a month or two. I walked with other people during that time. I'm pretty sure she had to see a doctor for that. Good memory. I'll see Daryl at diner and tell him. We started walking again. Now it was time to turn the conversation to a more delicate matter. You and Wanda used to walk like this often. I said, I know you've been busy, but that doesn't explain why you wouldn't try to reconnect when you returned from England back in August. Like I told you, I did reach out to her, but she kept putting me off. Why do you think she did that? I don't know. Wanda was a private person. Even on our walks, we rarely talk about private matters. We mainly discussed literature. I told her about Wanda's bold statement to Skip about having dirt on the people who contributed to the makeover. Did Wanda ever threaten that she'd tell NC State about what really happened so long ago? That really you were the one who burned Dennis' dissertation? She stopped walking again. Why would you suggest that? Tell me the truth, Cynthia. She paused. Her expression inscrutable until it broke wide open. I wrote a whole book about Shakespeare's view of truth in Hamlet, so I suppose I owe you the truth now. We started walking again, but more slowly. A few days after the makeover, Wanda did call to berate me for giving money for her yard. Berate me. Scott criticized angrily. Inscrutable. Supposed to understand, interpret. She said all she had to do was place a phone call to the chair of my department and my career would be through. I was shocked. It was so out of character for her. I knew immediately that something terrible had happened to her mind within the time I'd been away. Why didn't you say something to Daryl about it to me? I didn't see that could come of it. Her whole life, Wanda was a lovely woman. I didn't want her behavior in her final few months to define who she was. She had done so much for me, Rett. She saved my life. When you think about it, I could never do very much for her. I certainly couldn't save her from being killed. But this one thing I could do. Can you possibly understand why I'd want to preserve a positive narrative of her life so others could know who she really was at heart? We looked into each other's expression for the answer. I can, I said. The rest of our work was made up of small talk. When we got home, out of shared habit, we each stopped at our respective curbside mailboxes. Respective. And simultaneously screamed. In each of our mailboxes was tucked a bloody mound of fur. Around a mass object above the surface, large pile upon mound. Daryl responded to my phone call within minutes. Wearing surgical gloves, he quickly ascertained that both squirrels had been stabbed in the back just as Wanda had been. Certain. or closer to make sure. The mail hasn't come yet today, I said. They could have been placed in the mailboxes last night. After bagging each squirrel as evidence, Darrell rushed to deliver them to the crime lab before he was due to pick up his son from school. The bizarre bifurcate, drive into two branches for forks. Bifurcated life of a police detective. Noticing the hubbub, several who lived on the block stopped by or texted to ask what had happened. Those with mailboxes reported relief at finding them free of roadkill. Cynthia and I had been the only recipients of the gruesome deliveries. 好，谢谢大家，我们今天先读到这里吧，那我们下次再见了，拜拜。